Today I wanted to talk with you about opening up your own business for the first time, being a small business owner, and kind of share with you my experience from, kind of graduating school, being certified as an esthetician, and then scouting my location and opening up my own business for the first time. So a few years ago, I was very much struggling with acne. My skin went from not giving me any problems to horrific cystic acne breakouts. And I became very interested in skincare and health and wellness, and I decided I wanted to get my esthetician license. And so I got that, I became certified, and then the options for me right out of school were very limited. And of course they are. I didn't have hardly any experience other than what we learned in school, but I wanted to focus mostly on makeup and on facials. I did offer body waxing and I also did spray tanning. So I thought, okay, I'm going to open up a little beauty studio and I'll just go out on my own. Now looking back, it is so obvious to me, like, why didn't I think about this? But you don't know until you go through it for the first time. So that is my goal today, to kind of, I have all my notes right here, kind of go through me starting up my business and then mistakes that I made, and hopefully you can learn from me and not make the same mistakes that I did. So my first bit of advice to you would be to really do your research on the location of your studio or your business, wherever you're going to open up. And it seems so obvious to me now, but basically the area where I was living, close to LA, was too expensive for me to rent, on top of like me living there and renting my apartment. So I started to look a little bit further out of Los Angeles, and I found a neighboring county that I didn't know much about at all, but I found a location that I thought looked beautiful. I went to check it out in person and I fell in love with it in person, despite never having been to this county. I'd driven through it, but I didn't know anything about the location. So basically my setup was in a beautiful like new development area where there are brand new condos in this very upscale part of this area I ended up renting from. So all the buildings are brand new. There's a bunch of condos, and then there was like retail space on the bottom. And because again, it was a high income, kind of more high end area, but the rent was still pretty low, I immediately jumped on the opportunity and I signed the paper to lease, I believe, within a few days. So I kind of, I just felt in my heart like this is everything that I want. I didn't do enough research and realized that the county I was moving to is primarily, and I live here right now as I film this, and I've lived here for about 2 years, primarily much older people, a much older demographic. There's a lot of assisted living facilities. There are a lot of like older people homes, and there's a lot of retired people out here. Basically, the kind of people in general, there are exceptions, but the kind of people that make up the majority where I opened my business are not my ideal clientele. They are not women that are going to come in, to do makeup or get regular facials. They're significantly older, and their priorities are different. They came from an era of like not believing in wearing sunscreen, and they kind of wanted me to fix all the damage and years of like aging and sun damage on their face in one session, and that is not possible or realistic at all. So just know your demographic, where you're opening up the studio, and make sure that you're going to get enough people that it makes sense for you to open there. I don't care if everything else is perfect, because in my case, everything else about it seemed perfect. But if you're located in town where nobody needs the services that you're advertising, it's going to make it that much more difficult. There wasn't a demand for the services that I was offering. So that was very frustrating. It is very difficult, especially, I think, in any industry, but in the business and aesthetic industry, especially, you do have to build up a clientele, and it takes a while for you to have like your returning clientele that comes every 4 weeks for facials. there are so many factors to consider, such as the location and the demographic, that will help your business, take off maybe a little faster, maybe a little smoother. You're still going to have to put yourself out there and advertise, but it might not be so difficult if you're in an area with a lot of foot traffic, or you're in the kind of town where a bigger population is kind of your target demographic. So just a good thing to keep in mind. Speaking of growing your clientele, that leads me into advertising. In regards to advertising, it can be extremely expensive to pay for advertising. So as a new business owner, you're probably going to come up with or be presented with two options that are kind of free. There's no initial cost to do them, and those would be Yelp and Groupon. And oh my God, I have stories about both. So I'm going to start with Yelp. So let me be the first to tell you, Yelp is so incredibly aggressive with its advertising. You can start your own business page, and you can have a free one, and pretty much anybody can open one. That's not difficult at all. However, you do have to give them all your information, and when you do, be prepared to be called. Sometimes I would get calls 3 times a day. Usually it would be once a day. They're basically, they want to get you to pay them to advertise your business. So when you go to search results, your business would be like ad, and it would be at the top of the search for like whatever category people are looking for, if it's relevant. So you do have to pay. There's a documentary I would recommend you at least research, and it is called, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, it's called $1 Billion Bully. It's a documentary about Yelp. A restaurant owner basically is kind of exposing what they think are unethical practices from Yelp. In their words, that Yelp extorts small business owners for advertising fees in return for helping to manage and improve reviews on their platform. I watched it. I thought it was fascinating. I also discussed Yelp and their marketing practices a lot on Facebook. I was in so many small business, solo estheticians, just different kind of groups related to like being your own salon studio owner. Majority of people had kind of the same experience, that once you give Yelp your contact information, they will not stop contacting you, and after a while, if they realize like you're not interested in paying them for advertising, they may hide some of your good reviews. It's probably not ethical, but it's their platform. They can do whatever they want. Okay, so we talked about Yelp. That leads me on to Groupon. Groupon is another, it seems like a good option as free advertising for your business. So there is no upfront fee, but you do have to offer your services at a heavily discounted price. So they would, let's say you have a $100 service, they'd ask you to list it for $40 or less. It's not ideal at all, but what a lot of people don't realize is Groupon then takes a percentage of the 40. You don't get the whole 40. So not only are you offering a discounted service, on top of that, they're going to take a huge percentage, and you may be getting paid. I mean, at the end of the day, think about all your costs and everything. You may be getting paid a few dollars. I had some very good clients that I got from Groupon, and I am happy I did it for those clients. However, that was the exception to the majority. Most of these Groupon clients are not looking, they're looking for a deal, and they go from Groupon offer to Groupon offer. They are not looking to be loyal clients to you. The people that use Groupon in general are the worst kind of clients I've ever had. Just awful. They're looking to be cheap. A lot of them don't tip. And another thing, I think this is common sense. Apparently not, but if I get any kind of professional service, even if I have a coupon on it, I'm tipping on the full retail value. So if I got a facial for $40, I would tip on $100. I think that's only fair. You can pay less and you can get it for a discounted rate, but it is still worth the same amount of money. And I believe you tip 20%. So a tip is optional, and it's not you should never expect it. But absolutely don't expect it with Groupon people. In general, they're just the worst. They're not the kind of clients in general that you want in your studio. As you're opening your own business, even if you don't have your own business and you work anywhere, you realize common sense is not common and you really have to spell things out for people. So my last point is that you make your rules and your boundaries very, very clear. So it's good to be accommodating to people. You know, people will run late or they'll cancel or they will not show up, and that's part of the business. What I had my policies in place. I had them clearly stated on my website and on a form, on my consent form, that I would have people sign to book an appointment. And basically, I keep it simple but straightforward. If you are more than 15 minutes late, you'll be charged for your appointment. You'll be charged 50% for your appointment, and I'm gonna have to reschedule. You don't want to rush people, but I have to stay on a schedule because if I get too far behind, it's gonna push my entire day back. I'm not gonna have somebody come in half an hour late and then expect the full quality of service if they had been on time to their appointment. That's not realistic. I can't, not gonna be able to give you the full experience. So being very clear about that. Another thing I had, and this was for me being the one single person working there. I didn't have somebody at the front desk. I didn't have a receptionist. I didn't have other people working in the building with me. It was only me. I had a no children policy. I would just prefer not to. It's another thing to worry about, and I can't give 100% of my attention to my client. So again, I had my 15-minute rule. After 15 minutes, I'm going to have to reschedule you for another day. I prefer you do not bring your children. Pretty strict on that one. So again, I have all of that in my, stated on my website, stated on the form when you go to book an appointment yourself. There's a I accept the terms and conditions. You just click that. So that brings me to my last topic, which is protecting yourself legally. And this is where the importance of a waiver is going to come in. I used an app called WaiverForever. I actually had it on this iPad. So I had my iPad set up on like a little stand like that when people came in. It was open to the WaiverForever form. And I would just keep that displayed all day and keep this plugged in so people could just fill out very quickly. The waiver, it was uploaded to storage on my WaiverForever account. So I didn't have to worry about keeping files of things printed. But I wanted a record. You know, you want to go over allergies, if people are allergic to anything, if they've, you know, there's certain cosmetic procedures that you can't, that you may have done, and then it's not a good idea to get a facial, or you're not able to get a laser or some kind of facial treatment immediately after. There's a lot of contraindications for different treatments. If you're pregnant, there's a lot of skincare products that you can't use. So it's not even optional. It's absolutely a requirement that you have a waiver. Also that you go over the most important things. Are you pregnant? Breastfeeding? Do you have any allergies? All of that, you want that in writing. You need to have their signature on it. And then I always kept mine. So I had mine in a file online. God forbid anything went wrong and I'd have to go back to their waiver. But their waiver is releasing you from liability. And in my short time, my business is open, nothing happened. But you just want to have that, you want to have your back covered, just in case. So I was trying to keep that kind of vague because I know there's so many different kind of businesses that you could be opening. And mine was very much in the beauty world, makeup and aesthetics. But I feel like a lot of these do kind of hold true for whatever kind of business you're opening. So my expertise and my experience was all in the beauty world. As of right now, I do work for other people. I do not have my own business anymore. And I would love to again. And that's my goal, absolutely. Sometime in the future. Right now, I'm not in a place in my life to open another business again. But I don't regret opening mine at all. Again, the timing of it was unfortunate. The location of it was unfortunate. After the pandemic, things that changed everybody's life. So I'm not in a point in my life where I'm planning on opening one in the immediate future, but I definitely want to be a business owner and, have my own company again. It's a wonderful feeling. I don't want to sound cliche, but if you really do like put your all into it, like that was my life. I was there every single day, and just my whole everything revolved around promoting myself and making sure my business is running to my high standards that I have. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of work, but it does feel like a huge accomplishment. I would recommend it if you're in the position to, or if you're just hoping to one day, highly recommend it. Hopefully, you can kind of keep that in mind. Be careful of advertising. Be very knowledgeable about your location and about the demographic, the kinds of people that live in the location where you're opening, and just make sure that legally you are released from any liability if things were to go wrong. Would love to do part two to this, kind of focusing more on the specific things I needed to do to open up a business in the beauty industry. But for today, I just wanted to keep it a little bit more general. Hope you found that helpful, and I will see you in the next one.